Hey, why can't I see you? I think you need to turn your video on, Ash. Hi, Sabina. Hmm. Hey, there you are.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Oh, my brain's killing me.
I'm good, thank you. Can you hear me fine?
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, perfect, perfect. I was having issues when I was coming in initially. I couldn't hear anything, so I just had to come off straight away and then just re-enter. But
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
it's well, it's so nice to speak with you today about this topic.
I know, I'm so excited to. I feel like a rebel taking over Sanisa's Instagram. I feel like, oh, I'm in, what can I do?
But yeah, no, it's a nice discussion today because we're talking about something in relation to Mental Health Awareness Week,
Mhm.
and I think it's nice. I'm thankful that you reached out for this collaboration because I feel like it's nice to have that support from like people who are also doing similar work, and we basically come together and have these important conversations. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think we've followed each other for a while as well. So when Sunita mentioned doing this, I was like, okay, who do you have in mind? And then she said you, and I was like, oh yeah, I thought I had to. Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
Then I was like, say no more. Let's put it together. Do you want to introduce yourself and a bit about like Warrior Reminder?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I just start off by saying my name is Ash. It's nice to be here. I'm a writer and I'm the founder of Warrior Reminder. And Warrior Reminder is a healing and self-empowerment space. As of recently, focuses specifically on Black and Brown people's journeys to self-actualization, authorship, and basically equips people with the tools to look within themselves and sort of heal the landscape of their thoughts, and basically dare to make changes within their day-to-day lives. So yeah, that's me basically.
I love the way you say heal the landscape of their thoughts. Definitely a writer. I'll just go ahead and introduce myself as well. My name's Chani. I'm also a writer. I think that's how we kind of follow each other, maybe.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and I write about similar topics, just sort of like my own experiences, really. That's all I really know how to write about. So, yeah, I've been writing about kind of trauma and healing and just general mental health. Like my latest release is called So Far, So Close. And this one is just more about general, like I call it humanhood, just like how we navigate like our space just on the planet, you know. So that's me. We had some questions that we wanted to kind of ask each other and both give our answers. So I'm going to go ahead and go into our first question, which was because if you don't know, we're talking about returning from rock bottom, which I thought that was when you said that theme, I was like, we have to do that theme. I haven't seen talking about this, and I think it's one of those subjects where when you start talking about it, you realize how many people around you have also been in their version of rock bottom, how
Mm.
many different rock bottoms there are in the world. So I'm going to ask you first, and you could ask me back. What did rock bottom look like to you?
Okay, so it's so funny because like we thought about this topic, but I was like, see when you just think you naturally know the answer, so I was like, oh, I'm not gonna prepare anything.
Oh,
Um,
so we're in good company.
so if I go like on a tangent, just warm me back,
Yeah,
okay?
go.
So what was rock bottom like to me? So for those of you guys who don't know, like me beginning this process of healing, me beginning the process of creating Warrior Reminder, and me focusing my writing specifically around healing and self-empowerment came from me being in a dark space. So rock bottom to me looked like, and I've had a few rock bottoms, I'll say, like micro ones, I'll say,
Yeah.
but in terms of my major rock bottom, I was um I was depressed. I do have generalized anxiety disorder. So at the time, it was just like amplified. Like my anxiety was even worse at the time. Rock bottom to me, like literally just locking myself in my room, not trying to socialize with anyone, just losing all hope that things will get better. Just closing myself off from getting help, asking for support, really just feeling like hopeless, not doing anything that, like, at the time when I was in that space, I didn't have anything that I felt I had to look forward to. So I would go to work, but then I would still go home and just sort of seclude myself to my room, mostly just be in darkness, just sitting there. Really just, I went through a really, really, really low space. So for me, rock bottom was just, to me, it was really just like losing all hope that things will get better.
Right.
And not being willing or having that sort of sense of like that inner sense, like, do you know what, go and get help, go and try to improve yourself. It was really just like succumbing to this darkness, so it just felt like a cloud of darkness which covered me. So that was kind of my experience of rock bottom. And so yeah, I'll say it's just that hopelessness that I had. What
Mm.
about you?
It's just like, yeah, my hopelessness. How about you? It's such like a,
I know it sounds really dark, but yeah, like honestly, it's sad because sometimes we talk about like healing and we talk about like, yeah, so I meditate and I do this and that, and it's great, but
yeah,
the reality is when you're in that darkness, it's really difficult to get out of it, and it's not pretty. It's very like ugly and it's dark and it's just dreary, you know? So it's nice to, as
definitely.
much as it's dark,
Yeah.
yeah, as much as it's dark, it's like you have to bring those things to light and talk about them. So, you know, people know that, you know, there's other people who have experienced it. So, in
Oh,
that,
I think everything you said, like I'm sure so many people can relate to that as well, because it is just that almost like a just dark cloud over your existence, and like no one can tell you otherwise. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, because I think a lot of people will relate to that. I mean, for me, I didn't plan either, and I feel like when I answer these questions, it always just comes out in a very dramatic way, but that's just life. So it's just like, it's just my experience. For me, rock bottom, there have been many, some worse than others. I mean, I had quite a toxic situation, like home life when I was growing up. So almost like when I think of rock bottom, I think of like my childhood was kind of like, sorry, my phone keeps turning off, a rock bottom in general. And then there's just like the whole next rock bottom was sort of like realizing that my home life wasn't normal and it was a rock bottom. And then almost like being in denial of it and acting out as a teenager, that was like another rock bottom where I was just like, starting from maybe like 15, 16 years old, just like on drink, on drugs, just like completely wilding out, like constantly. And I was like, this has nothing to do with anything that happens to me as a child. This is just who I am. And then the next rock bottom is realizing, oh, maybe all of this is really textbook behavior. And now I have to accept that. So it was like another sort of breakthrough moment of like, I'm in rock bottom. And then I was good for a while. I had some rock bottom relationships when I was dating people like twice my age, you know, and I think all of these rock bottoms are kind of like symptoms of the initial rock bottom. And I always like to talk about the knock-on effect, you know, that one mistake that happens to you or one trauma you experience can suddenly reprogram your brain to repeating this kind of feeling in every state that you're in. So I think I was like addicted to rock bottom for most of my life, you know. I think more recently, I'm probably in the best place I've ever been in my whole life. But I will say that like a few years ago, like trigger warning on sort of like child care, child birthing and stuff. But I had an abortion. I got what's that called? Post-abortion disorder. And all the things that have happened to me in my life, you know, I've been sexually assaulted, I've had all these traumatic experiences, but in my head and in my memory, that is one of the biggest rock bottom I've ever been in. And the only reason I wanted to bring that up is because sometimes you can be going through something that doesn't seem like, oh, well, there's these many worse things that could have happened to me. But everyone's rock bottom is different. And I think it took me experiencing these things that if you'd read about on a newspaper, you'd be like, oh my God, that's like the worst thing that could ever happen to somebody. And then going through something that some people find so easy, that was my rock bottom compared to all of those things. And you know, so I say that to just be like, not to minimize your own problems and compare your problems with other people's, because rock bottom's different for everyone.
Mm.
Oh, my.
I It's okay. I appreciate you sharing that because that is so true. Like there's tends to be like a hierarchy which people
Yeah.
place on like what's worse than the other. So I appreciate you saying like, you know, like it's, you know, like you said, that was your rock bottom, but for someone else it may not have been. But I totally resonate, especially like with the, you know, things that happen in your childhood or your experiences or your upbringing, like how much it kind of like continues to play out in adulthood. And I'm reading this book and it was I think the term was coined by Freud, and it was like, it's called repetitive compulsion. So that constant reinforcing or reenacting, sorry, our experiences in childhood, and that can look like just in terms of how your parents communicated with you, and you constantly reinforcing that and like not being able to effectively communicate your emotions or whatever that looks like. But I totally agree. I've been through relationship rock bottoms.
Yeah.
I've been through career rock bottoms, feeling like, do you know what? I don't know what I want to do. Like I definitely went through that when I was at uni. I finished uni, and I was like, mate, like I don't know what I want to do. Like I have no idea. So I mean it looks differently. And just to add on to like that experience that I was when I said that I was in low space, I was also in a toxic environment,
Mm.
home environment. So that really added to
Cool.
like the rock bottom, because there's one thing you trying to get well by yourself or you go through an experience, but then when you're in a toxic environment it just makes it kind of worse.
Mm.
It feels what it felt heavy for me, if that makes sense. But I totally agree in terms of like they're not needing to be or should not be hierarchies.
Yeah, definitely. Because one thing like I've realized is like things like depression, anxiety disorder, all of this, they don't care what situation your life's in. They don't care if you're on the street or in a palace. Like you're gonna feel rock bottom somehow at the hands of these horrible conditions. So I just thought it was important to mention that. The next question that we planned was how did we or would we go from hopeless to hopeful? And I really liked how you phrased that. It was like a hopeless, hopeful. Um, but
That's another question that I was like thinking about, and I was like, I don't even know for myself. Okay, so I would say for me, let me say, I'll say my experience and I'll say things that could potentially help other people. But I'll say for me, I just got to the point personally, and this is trigger warning as well, where I was like, I either don't live on this earth or I decide to radically change my
yeah,
life or radically see what the alternative is other than this darkness that I was experiencing. And I know that not everyone goes through that, but what I've noticed is that people, when they're on a healing journey, they tend to experience the same sort of rock bottom, and then they're like, there's this glimpse of like, do you know what, let me see what the alternative is. Then they follow that and then they realize, do you know what, I'm healing from this in some way. So but I would say for me, I just kind of came to that like either or, and I was like, okay, that I'm not sure that way, I'm gonna go that way. But I would say in terms of what you can do, I think it's just about like taking it one step at a time. And I also feel like it's declaring or actually just like accepting, or before you get to acceptance, at least just realizing and acknowledging that you do feel hopeless,
mm,
realizing and acknowledging that you do feel like life is crap. And I feel like just that realization frees you from like that self-judgment of how or what this moment should look or be like, if that makes sense. So I
mm,
feel like declaring it, and then also saying, you know, I feel hopeless, like what's I suppose one thing that I would say is like trying those little things out of to get out of that. So it just looks like, okay, you know, instead of sleeping all day, perhaps just you know, getting a reasonable amount of sleep, going on a walk, going to counselling, you know, just taking little steps, and then eventually you'll start to feel better. But here's the thing, like when you are experiencing depression and you know, clinical depression, then obviously there's so many things to that. Like I don't want to undermine the depth and how difficult it is to get from that point to that point. But I
mm,
would say it's really just about taking those steps and then accepting that this is how you feel, and then just like saying, do you know what, I need help, what am I going to do? And for me, I was really just like in the mindset of like, sort of like a baby, almost like I'm gonna pick at anything and see what works. So I
Yeah.
literally picked up a book, I listened to this podcast, I did this, and I was like, some of this stuff sounds like crap. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I listened to some affirmation. I'm be honest, like I do a lot of affirmations and writings before, but back in the day when I was in that stage, I just thought this stuff was crap. I
Yeah.
did. I was like, why am I telling myself affirmations? Like, this is not going to work for me. So for me, it was just like, let's just see. People are saying it works. Let's just see. And then over time, I was like, okay, even though I don't believe this works, I'm going to continue to just do it over and over again. I'm going to continue to look at these resources and tools and see what works. And eventually I got to a point where I was like, do you know what? That works for me. That doesn't work for me. And now I'm starting to see my mood start to shift. But I think what really helped me was just accepting that this is how I'm feeling and allow myself to just like feel my way through to wellness, I'd say. So yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with so much that you said as well. And it's so funny that as you were saying, like you're almost like a baby. It was actually really weird because when you were talking, I was thinking like when people are babies, you always hear that phrase like, "Oh, it takes a village like to raise a child." But I think sometimes like it takes a village for an adult as well, and you have to go to these resources and counselling and like
Yeah.
I don't know what at what point we get along life where we suddenly have to just be responsible for ourselves like as one. Like it's
True.
that no more village like yeah. So it's funny that you brought up being a baby. That was just like a weird moment. But yeah, no, for my answer, like from hopeless to hopeful, it's quite a cliche, but I do feel like you do have to hit the bottom. Like there has to be some point where it's like maybe you're used to being this low, but then one day you get to this low, and even you were like, "Nah, this is too much." Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a cliche to say, but you do kind of have to get to like a new low to propel you into sort of like, okay, something has to change. And I definitely think that's happened to me a few times where I've just been like, I can't carry on like this. And similar to what you were saying, I started to try all these different things I was reading about and thinking that this is not gonna help. But I'm trying to think what age I was. I must have been like 22. I'm 28 now. I must have been like 20, 22 when I found, I think everyone always finds it the same way. Like, I watched The Secret and I was like, oh, okay, like maybe I have this control. And I got all hyped up, like, yeah, I can do whatever I want. And then after a month, I was like, this doesn't work. Like, but I was just trying to focus on all of this stuff. It's like a spiritual bypass, right? And ignore the fact that I was still doing all these other toxic behaviors. So, once I kind of got over myself a little bit on that regard, I was like, yo, look in the mirror, like, and just started to make changes. Like, I got rid of people that I needed to get rid of, and that's to say, family included. Like, I feel like there's this weird thing about like you should bond yourself to these people that are really to your detriment, and it was a really difficult decision to make. But I was given a sort of ultimatum of like, stop talking about the things that have happened to you, or you'll be disowned. And I was like, I'm out. Like, and it was terribly hard, but I never looked back in my life. It's never been better ever since I made that decision. So I always want to bring that point up just to be like, don't feel like just because you're bound by blood to people that you should take that kind of manipulation and abuse for whole life and suffer. So yeah, I cut a lot of people off. I cut boyfriends off, family members off, and just almost like started a new life. I remember it's so clear in my head the day after I left my ex that I was with for maybe like 5 years, but probably should have been with for like 1 year, 2 years. And I remember leaving the house that day and walking down the street, and it was like a scene from a film where there'd be like fireworks behind you and like the birds are singing, and I felt like I'm a new person. And that is when I really got serious about my healing. And I know not that religion is not for anyone, but I really got hardcore about praying. And I know like for some people that's like affirmations or universe, but whatever it is, like I'm open to all kinds of religion, everything. I like a bit of everything, but it's that commitment every day to trying to make a change. Even if some days you still end up going backwards and you're going to be in bed for 3 weeks crying, it's just knowing that you've got that tool now. So when you're ready, you can get out of the bed and start making a commitment again to change. And I really started doing that and just trying to look for signs of the choices that I was making and really being more introspective and not being so impulsive. Because I think a lot of people that suffer with like a lot of depression and anxiety and trauma, we can be very impulsive in our decision making because you're just always in fight or flight. So once I started to just take a step back and really like value myself a bit more and value the way that I made my choices and give myself that respect, I started to see more hope. And then even just like as of like 2 days ago, because I was in a bit of a dip on my mental health recently. I was starting to get a bit anxious, where I never really was an anxious person. I was always more of a depressed person. But recently I started to have this like, oh, lots of things are changing and I feel anxious and I'm starting to get panic attacks and da, da, da. And then I just sat down and had this epiphany, which sounds so simple, but I was like, yeah, some of these things I can't control, but a lot of these things that I can control. So all the parts that I can control, I'm going to do something about today. And I sat there and just, sent this message and posted this one thing and talked to this person that I knew could help me with something, and just even just doing that, just taking charge of the things that I was in charge of made me feel so much better. I think I've gone on like 10 tangents, but yeah, I feel
No, no,
much better
no.
all of these things. But yeah, I never want to, like, similar to what you were saying, I never want to paint a picture of like, hey, you just do X, Y, and Z and you're going to be better. Because I think one thing that gets glossed over in the wellness space a lot is like, when you have these sort of chemical imbalances like depression, things like that, a plethora of mental disorders that we can have, it comes in waves. You can be
Mm.
everything. Your brain says no, your brain says no. I mean, I'm on medication now, and I still sometimes have days like, this medication doesn't work, it's all fake. Because it's just like, then I have to remind myself, this is what normal people are when they're just sad. That doesn't mean that I'm relapsing on depression, it's just I'm in a bad mood. And sometimes I do get waves where I'm like, I'm going to be depressed for a week. But I've had to accept that's just who I am as a person now, is a part of my life. And I think instead of this culture we have of teaching us to heal from our mental health issues and get over them and confront them, it's like I've kind of taken the approach of, this is part of who I am. I have this disorder. Maybe I'm going to be healed from it, maybe I won't, because it is just in my brain. How can I work with it rather than just constantly being fighting with my own self? How can I work with it and just turn it into something that is a part of me that I just get on with? Like, I know that person to quote because he's kind of problematic, but Kanye West did say that his bipolar is his superpower, and he turns it into a superpower, and he just works, on days where he's manic and gets all his ideas out and just work with the fact that he has bipolar disorder. And I know he said a lot of problematic stuff, but that I was like, yeah, like, why not? Like, why can't we work with the things that are... Sorry, I'm talking so much, but...
No, 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 no. I love it. No, I totally
I just
resonate.
want to add to this. That was what was that thing that I wanted to add to this answer? I was doing a podcast for actually somebody that I met through Shushbox as well. Shout out Reclaim Me podcast if you'll ever see this video. And we were just chatting on that podcast, and I was saying, like, I didn't almost want to say it because the first half of the sentence sounds a bit like whoa, but like we always hear these things that's like it gets better, and I don't actually really think it does. I think we get better. The things that us are always going to be bad, and I think that whole thing of saying it gets so much better, one day it'll be fine, it's like almost expecting us to look at all of these things that from our rock bottom and we have to be fine with them. We don't. They can always be our rock bottom, and rock bottom can always be there, and we just improve ourselves and move away from it. And since I started that, not being in competition with myself, not trying to get over things that are just a part of me, not trying to make all my past be better, that was the big way for me. And now I can be more hopeful.
Oh, I love that so much.
A lot of ways, but for me, that's how it goes.
I love that so much. I definitely resonate. Like, I think that's also for me, like, what helps me so much, like, just realizing that, like, I am gonna have like bad days, and like it's not that there's gonna be external experiences are going to get better per se, but it's more so about your reaction and response to it. So for me, it's like since I was like young, I always had like a kind of, it's weird, I always had this sense of hope.
Yeah.
In some ways, like, I don't know if you resonate with this, but you just always kind of felt like your life is supposed to be more than where you are or your current circumstances. But then I always had like this pessimism. Like, growing up, I was very pessimistic, I'd say. And obviously that was because I went through a lot in my upbringing and stuff like that. So I had a lot of, I was just pessimistic, and like sometimes it still kind of comes up, like these really negative, dark thoughts and feelings about myself. And like for me, it's just like I said, it's just really about like embracing it. I'm just like, you know what, Ash, this is how you're feeling. Like, don't fight it. There's certain things where you don't necessarily need to entertain. Like, for example, when you get certain thoughts, it's like, do I really need to entertain this while I'm going in a cycle? Because there's times before where like, every single thought, I'd be like, let's think about this, let's reflect on this.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes,
Your brain's
let's think about it. Exactly. Think about it for 10 minutes and then let's move on. Because
mm,
me, I can think about things for days, okay?
mm,
So I was like, the certain things, Ash, move on. But now it's like, okay, Ash, you're feeling jealous, you're feeling insecure, you're feeling like you're unlovable, whatever it is I'm feeling, I'm just like, okay, let's have a conversation. This is how you're feeling. Or sometimes it's like, let's just sit with it. Let's just leave it. Let's just allow it to flow,
yeah.
like, or utilize how I'm feeling to write about it. And not all those writings necessarily need to be public, but it's an outlet for me to express myself. Uh,
100%.
yeah, like I'm sure you resonate as well as a writer, like just utilizing writing as like a tool to sort of get your feelings out there. So I think it's really important. I think it's really surrendering to, for me anyways, really surrendering to this moment. And when I was in rock bottom, I used to like pray, and I used to just say like, God, universe, like divine, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know. But I'm just going to pass it on to you and
Yeah.
trust that all will be well. And I'm going to do my absolute best. But I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work. But I'm just going to trust that there's a greater plan or something, you know? Surrendering is really important. I felt like if you are in rock bottom as well.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. I always like to just say the prayer that's like, if this is the path I'm meant to be on, just keep me on it. Nothing
Mm,
changed. It's like, oh, that wasn't my path. Like, I can't work.
yeah.
Like, if I'm meant to be doing this, let it go well. Okay, yeah, it's still going. Okay, thank you. Next point I get to, I'm like, okay, I've made the next checkpoint. If I'm meant to take this further, let me know. I keep like that. That's how I operate my life. But
I
I
love
think
that.
what you're saying about like how you were very pessimistic, I think it's important to acknowledge that like when you have been through stuff, especially when you've been through stuff when you're very young, we get jaded at such an early age, and it's because we've seen the worst of the world. So
Mhm.
when you've been exposed to the worst of the world, and the worst of the world has been your experience, it's very hard to believe that better A exists and B exists for you. So yeah, once you kind of accept that like it doesn't matter what's happened to you, we all deserve greatness, and we all deserve, to be in whatever situation we want to be in, because our past has happened. Like, we can't let people and let our past just dictate our future, and it's such a hard thing to believe when you've gone, especially when you're younger. I mean, like 2 years feels like 20 years when you're like a teenager,
Right.
slowly, and it's so hard to believe that anything else could ever exist, but it is out there. You just have to go and get it. Which
No, absolutely.
seems so impossible. I think this is a good segue into the next question that I think you put down on the thing that was, what advice would you give yourself looking back? We might be here all night if you want to hear my advice.
Right. Okay.
Oh,
I don't even know where to start. Do you want to start with yours?
you want me to
Or
start? Okay, my advice looking back. Do you know what? Actually, I won't be here all night, because if I'd have asked myself this a couple of years ago, I would have so much harsh criticism for all of the mistakes that I made and the kind of person that I was, and just decisions that I was making that were so dumb, and red flags that I ignored, and all of this. But now that I've still been doing therapy again, because I did it a bit when I was younger, and then I stopped for a long time, and I started doing it again like a year ago, and just even like just outside of therapy, just being more introspective, a lot of the decisions that I made were like not my fault. Not to say that I'm blameless, but it's like the headspace that I was in and the way that I was conditioned. I was just surviving. No, that's saying like, I can't live
mm,
surviving. So I can't spend my whole life shaming, 19 years old Chani for being a wreck, because I was doing what I thought was right at the time. And I think it's important, especially even when dealing with people you meet now, but also to extend that same grace to our past selves. It's like people are only doing what they think is right, and there are some evil people on the planet, of course, but it's like 9 times out of 10 when you think someone's kind of crossing you, or you've crossed yourself in the past, it's like, I'm sure they're not trying to upset you. People just don't know any better. I didn't know any better. So the only advice that I would give myself is just like, okay, I know you're trying to survive, but stop putting yourself in danger. Like, some of the situations that I put myself in when I was younger, I'm kind of surprised that I'm not dead. Like, not to be dramatic. And it's like, sometimes I think I was just testing the boundaries, to see like maybe I was just
yeah.
trigger warning to talk about like self-harm and suicide a bit, but maybe I was too scared to kind of take that leap myself. But it was sort of like, okay, well, what situation can I be in to see if I should be on this earth or not, you know? So I would tell myself to stop doing dangerous things and just to value myself a bit more. And I think if I'd have valued myself a bit more, I would have gotten to this place where I am now a lot faster, and I wouldn't have so much that I need to undo now. And I think that's, again, another symptom of not being valued in my childhood. I didn't know how to value myself. And in that case, it's not even so much advice, it's more I just like have a lot of sympathy for my past self. But yeah, I would say valuing myself, looking out for danger, and probably a lot of fashion choices though. I'm going to
Same. Same. I would say for me, I would say like similar to the Kanye West quote about like the bipolar, but I would say my sensitivity, my highly sensitiveness is a superpower. Yeah, I felt a lot of shame. I felt like something was inherently wrong with me because I felt so intensely my experiences. I also recognize that part of that is because I come from a line of people with mental illness. So I also know that so many different factors play in, plus trauma, into your disposition, right? But I felt a lot of shame for who I was. I would cry very easily over things. I would just feel down and low about myself over things. Like I just felt so like insecure all the time. Like I just everything just felt like I just didn't want, those times where like I just did not want to be on this earth because I just felt so sensitive to everything. So I would say like your sensitivity is a superpower, and hopefully I don't know if I would be listening to myself if I was like, what is that? She'd be like, girl, bye, okay? I don't know what you're talking about. Because honestly, I was not aware, like, do you know what I mean? So, but, so I'll say that, and just like similar to you, just start valuing yourself, like, you know, just telling myself that you're enough, like, you don't need to change. I used to truly want to change who I was. There was parts of me that I did like, but there was times where I actually would like think, oh, imagine if I could just morph into someone else's experience or someone else's body, or look like someone else or be like someone else. Like maybe it's so much better, because why is my family situation so crap? Like it's just shit. Like so yeah, honestly, just like you're enough. And yeah, the sensitivity thing.
I love what you said about sensitivity. In my first book, I have talked a lot about that, because I feel like a lot of the way society is trying to be like, we don't care about anything, like no fucks given, you know, all of this kind of talk. And I feel like when I look back, younger self, I was trying to be so hard. Like I was just trying to do all this like rough stuff and just like, you know, not let things affect me. And I'm just like you, I'm so sensitive. Like, but I was just trying to like, cover that up and just like, again, survival mode, whatever. But yeah, now I think like being soft is like the best thing you can do, especially in 2021. It's like an act of resistance. It's like I am not letting anything else in this world harden me. Like no way. Like I'm not gonna toughen up. I'm not gonna try and go to work and be this like boss person. Like I'm gonna be nice to every person that I meet. I'm gonna be respectful to everybody. I'm gonna be emotionally like available, not beyond my means, but you know, I'm gonna be in tune with my emotions, and I'm gonna be who I am, which is a soft person. And if like, you know, closes doors for me, it closes doors for me, but I'm not having anything else hard on me the way it did before. And some people don't know how to take that sometimes, like they want you to act a certain way and do a certain thing, and, you know, like professionalism and all these things that I don't really believe in. But I'm just like, no, I'm a soft person. I'm going to be cool to everyone. I'm going to be nice to everyone. I want to make people feel good. Obviously I have boundaries, but you know, I'm so happy because sensitivity, it's like people are so scared of it. It's wild.
Absolutely.
It's crazy to me, but yeah, I love
No, absolutely. I think it's really important. Like, I love that. Just like you're not gonna allow the world to harden you. You're just gonna remain soft, and I think that's so beautiful. Yeah, no, I think that's just so beautiful. I think it's also, if I was another advice I would give, is just like people aren't going to accept you, and that's okay. Because I that was another thing. It was like, oh, I'm just not, like, people just not accept, like, I just cared so much about what people thought about me. So yeah, I love that. Remain soft, remain soft.
Eden just said, yeah, love that. Yes. Hi.
Yeah, really
And
good. Hi.
I know we had one more question that we can go into. What practices help you maintain your mental health?
Mm. Okay. I think first and foremost, me just being connected to a sense of having a higher power, feeling connected to a higher power. I feel like sometimes it's like you don't always want to. I don't mind talking about this, but sometimes in like mental health or well-being spaces, like you're just like, oh, maybe I leave that thing in the side in terms of talking about it. But yeah, my spirituality really grounds me in a sense of oneness, in a sense of like unconditional love. I always feel unconditionally loved by the divine and source. So that grounding, having that foundation helps me because I can always return back to it whenever I don't feel loved by
Yeah.
humans, whenever I don't feel like I love myself. I can say I'm unconditionally loved by a source outside of me and within me, right? But yeah, so I think that's the first and foremost thing. And I'll say daily practices that I implement. And with that, I'm not always consistent. And you know, let's just be honest with. Let me be honest. I'm not always
I
consistent.
think people that say they are, they're lying.
Yeah, no, I'm not always consistent. Like during lockdown, the first couple of months, I was like, okay, I'm consistent, but yeah, but no, I'm not always consistent. But what I'll say is, I try to like take a little bit of like 10 minutes of silence, just to meditate or just. I don't necessarily like still meditation per se, so sometimes it's really just like journaling for a couple of minutes, like just in silence, listening to something in the background and just chilling, just relaxing, reading something, or just like just being still for a little bit, just thinking and reflecting. I will say just as well, like just being mindful of what I consume on a daily basis. So don't get me wrong, I do watch ratchet TV. I do, you know. But I do make sure that I mix the ratchet and the righteousness. So I do
I love
also have listen.
that. Ratchet and righteous.
Exactly. So I do read affirmations in the morning. I have like a deck of cards, or just read like my Yana Van Zant book. Just read something positive and affirming. And then I just feel like it's really just being clear. I think for me, one of the things was like being clear about who I am.
Yeah.
I think that, and every single day, kind of like when I find myself moving away from that or moving outside of my integrity, pulling myself back. So it's about doing those little practices of talking to myself, checking in with myself. Just those little things on a daily basis really helps me. So I'll say that. And journaling, of course, is like the tool that I use. But like I said, with that, I don't even always journal, you know? So, yeah,
But it's just knowing that you have the ability. I think that's the most important.
exactly.
All of these like tools, resources, whatever you want to call them, it's like it's not necessarily you have to punish yourself if you don't do it every single day, but it's just knowing how to use it and knowing that it's there when you need it. I think that's the most important thing. So if I'm going to go into like how I maintain my mental health, that's been a big thing for me, is like I don't put pressure on myself to do anything, which might sound a bit extreme, but like
I
I
love it.
don't do anything when I'm writing books. I don't put deadlines myself. I don't put pressure on myself to do anything because the world puts enough pressure on us. I am not going to be one of the people putting pressure on myself. I'm not contributing to that. So I really just kind of let myself go with the flow, which sometimes can get out of hand and it's like, go, you're not productive. But in terms of like journaling and stuff, like again, I said it, like impulsive, fight or flight. Like I'm really like painting. I have not painted in a very long time, but when I was in one of my rock bottoms and I was still living with my family, I was in a very like crazy toxic situation. I will say to myself, I'm going to paint every single day, and I would sit there in the middle of all of this chaos just painting. And sometimes I'll like be having a fight while I'm painting, like screaming at people. But it was like, then it became a bit toxic. So now it's like, okay, painting soothes me. I don't need to force myself to do it every day when I'm not in the headspace to paint, you know. Same with writing, journaling. Like I journal through all my hard times. Sometimes I don't need to journal, so I don't feel like it. And it is good to document your wins and stuff. And I do make sure. Another thing that I do is really like celebrate small victories. Like, oh,
Yes.
I was in this house, I lived with my boyfriend and his brother. I drove them mad in lockdown. Anytime there was a small victory, we had to have a dinner. We had to come dressed Sunday best.
I love that so much.
Like, you should celebrate things, everything. So yeah, I celebrate my small victories. I don't pressure myself to stick to any sort of mental health regime other than I do therapy weekly. And actually, let me just use that moment to mention, I find it so disgusting that therapy is so inaccessible to people. And that I go through at the moment, I just thought I should mention, actually, they're called the Awareness Centre, and they have so many training therapists, and I think they charge like £20 a session, which is so low compared to like a lot of other places. I didn't even realise my therapist was a trainee because she's so good. She's like the best I've ever had. And I just thought I'd mention that Awareness Centre for people to look into.
Oh wow,
Who was
yeah.
charging £100 a session. It's just unrealistic. Like, who, like, come on. So I thought I'd just shout them out. They do online sessions as well, so you can do it virtually no matter where you live. But anyway, therapy, yeah, I do therapy every week. I am on medication, and I have to say, yeah, that has helped me a lot. And for a while, I was so like, I don't need medication, I don't need medication. I don't really know why, because I've never been against it. I just didn't think that I needed it. And now I'm like, do you know what? I fucking needed medication, and I'm on medication so much. So that definitely helps with my mental health. And yeah, I think the no pressure thing has been the biggest thing. That's just like, I don't feel obliged to act any kind of way. I just wake up and be myself. That's the best thing that I've kind of done to maintenance wise, is just to sort of monitor my moods, but not force myself to do anything.
So how do you, I was gonna ask you, this is like personal, but like how, like for me, that is like I would say one of my biggest struggles, to kind of like, I try to go with the flow, but like, I don't know if it's because like I'm a Capricorn, but just
like, that's what it is, that's why.
What's your star sign?
I'm a Scorpio.
Are you Scorpio? Oh yeah, but I think because I'm a Capricorn. Yeah, I think it's because I'm a Capricorn. I just feel like I'm just very like rigid. This way, list, checklist, dun dun dun. So what did you say?
You got drive.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, I need to, like, that's one thing that I'm learning. And I want to be open about the struggles that I'm going through. But it's like, yeah, that's just one thing for me where it's just like, I need to turn it off, because I'm just so like, when I get into a space of like passion and drive, I'm like, and deadlines. I see Taurus going, yes, earth signs. So like for me, it's like, that's one thing for me, like going through with the flow. It's just like, it's something that I definitely want to like learn to do more. But yeah.
Tell you what works for me. I don't know if it will work for you, because a lot of people, I say this to them and I think I'm like crazy hippie. I learned to go with the flow and chill out when I started seeing, how do I explain this? Okay, so I did a workshop about this. I asked everybody in the workshop to write down like their biggest goals, whether it's career goals or like life goals, or like you want to be, I don't know, people say they want to be married by this time, they want to get this job, they want to have X amount of money in the bank. It's all these kind of things we hear very frequently as people's goals, right? And then I asked them, okay, I want you to write down how you think you'll feel when you get to that goal. And people wrote, oh, I'll feel safe, I'll feel secure, I'll feel happy, I'll feel this. I said, okay, so why do you need to put all this work to become a millionaire to feel safe and secure? How can you have these feelings in your everyday life? What are the things that make you feel the way your goal is going to make you feel? And once you start realizing that you can feel like that anyway, these big scary goals don't seem so important, and they don't put so much stress on you, because I know that I can have happiness, and I know that I can have love, and I know that I can feel secure, and I can just feel like, it's all about feelings for me. I chase feelings.
I love that.
And it has made me like, I will say, like, my goals in terms of where I want to be in life are like, the bar is in hell. Like, I will say, like, I think I started to job, even in the interview, she was like, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I was like, I don't look like, I don't look. And she laughed, and I got the job, so it kind of gone that badly. But yeah, I just chase feelings. To the point where he's laughing now because he works with me. Don't get me incriminated at work. Even to the point where I did a poem about this in my current book, So Far So Close, the link in bio.
Yes.
And I said, like, there was one day in lockdown where I was like, I was in the shower. It was a really, really hot day, and I think like the plug was like blocked, and I was like, oh my god, I've just put this chemical down, it hasn't worked. And I was showering, and the water was like building up like this much, and it's like, you don't like it, you're in the bath, but the water was so warm, and I had the bathroom window open, And I closed my eyes and I had my ankle bracelets on and I had my braids on and I was walking up and down the bath and I was like, who can tell me that I'm not on a beach right now? Because the feeling I have is like I'm on holiday. I have that serenity like in my soul right now. Other than the fact that I'm in my bathroom, who can tell me that I'm not with my family in St. Kitts? Because it's how you feel. And I had that epiphany. I put in the poem, I was like, walking up and down in my shower made me realise that being at the beach is not why I love the beach. And it's that mentality, you know, it's like, then you can go with the flow because, and I mean, like, what are your goals? What are you trying to feel?
No, well, me?
Yeah.
Well, I would say, how do I want to feel? Are you asking?
Yeah, right, think about that. I mean, maybe not
How
like
do I want to feel?
but just
I
try
just want to feel. I want to feel free. I want to feel like I can just. I don't know. I want to feel. I don't know. I've never thought about this.
Well,
So
tonight.
huh?
That's your journal prompt for this evening.
Yeah, that's my homework. My homework tonight. Okay, because I love that. You're so right about like the feeling, because it's true. Because like I've had moments where like I think it was on Sunday where I was listening to like some R&B. I was like in my vibe, in my zone. And like the sun was out, and I was just like, I was just dancing. I was just so excited, and I was like, yay! I just felt this sense of like peace and this sense of like freedom, and I was like, this is what I envision for myself.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
How crazy is that? That's what you envisioned, but you were already there.
Yeah. That's so true.
Times when we're already at our goal, we just don't realize it. Like a good way to like what's that word? Great writer over here. I don't know what I'm talking about. A way to like a good comparison is like I remember like when I grew up, we were like dirt poor. Like we were so poor when I was growing up. But I remember like I didn't know we were poor until I started to go to other people's houses, and it was like, oh, I'm poor. But like before, I didn't know that, and it's just because of like what I knew in here. Once you let the world start telling you how you feel, then it's like, oh shit, like I'm meant to be doing something different than I'm doing. But it's
so true.
outside. Like I didn't know that when I was 5 years old. Like I was having fun in the garden with like all my neighbours and stuff, playing on the street. Like I didn't know that was like a bad thing. And it's just like blocking out those outside messages and just going with the
feeling. That's so true. And I also feel like that relates a lot to the topic of like the rock bottom, because it's really just about like who I mean, it's difficult to, I mean, I've been thinking about this recently about, you know, when it comes to us thinking about authenticity and our true selves, sometimes it's difficult to know what that is, who we are, because we have so much layers of like socialization, our upbringing, our environment, which you know, we kind of shapes our identities. But I think what I love is that, you know, you never knew you was poor, like you just played, you know. So it's kind of like that, like taking away the layers and like, who am I outside of what I've been told that I am, or how I've been told that I'm supposed to feel, or how I've been told that I'm supposed to experience life. You know, that relates to a lot of people in jobs and you know, certain environments, in certain types of relationships, expressing themselves like their sexuality in a certain, like, you know, gender conforming way, or just things like that. And then like when you start to discover who you are and understand that, you know what, these norms don't suit me, they don't serve me, just so many different things. I think it's that also leads to you coming out of that rock bottom stage, I think, of just like becoming who you're supposed to be, your true self, or at least moving towards that, by just daring to actually say, do you know what, this no longer serves me, let me leave that and let me redefine who I am.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that. I love that redefining thing where it's like we can reinvent ourselves every day. Like, I always think if someone hasn't seen me in a month, they don't really know me. And like, I extend that to other people. Like, people I don't like, I'm like, well, I haven't seen them for like 5 months. So everything I think about them probably isn't true anymore. I always extend that benefit of doubt to people. Doesn't mean I have to see them again, but it's just like, I like to think that everyone's changing and redefining, and like, you'd hope, right? You'd hope that everyone was on a growth mission.
No, absolutely, and I feel like I love to see like as well like my friends and just having those spaces where like we're all sort of like embracing who we are in that moment because I like that. I suppose it is difficult for me to be in flow sometimes, but I do like that flow in my connections as well. It's like, you know what I believe months ago I may not necessarily believe.
Yeah.
Like I want you to be on that you know, hold space or allow me to grow and evolve within this,
Mm.
and also I'll do the same for you. And one thing that me and one of my closest friends do is like we check in with each other, and like when we have certain conversations, it's like it's not saying this is what you believe, it's like if this does not resonate with you, let me know. Like, do you know what I mean? Like if
Yeah,
it's no longer resonates with you, not assuming that they believe the same thing that they told me a year ago, a couple of years ago.
yeah.
Constantly trying to learn other people throughout the process. Yeah.
That's the dynamic as well. And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
down to the fear, like not having the fear of like being wrong. It's like we're allowed to change our minds. Like you don't have to be like, oh, I said that like 2 years ago, so I have to stick with my word. It's like, nah, I was talking shit 2 years ago. It's fine. Like,
Exactly. Like at least you have that
but
now.
I think
Like,
it's especially like with the kind of work that we're doing, where we're like sort of putting ourselves out there. It's like very easy to get caught in that trap of like not wanting to change your mind sort of in public. But it's like we're
mm,
allowed, and yeah, that's like comes with the pressure thing. It's like I don't hold myself to any kind of crazy standard. I think it's so damaging to your mental health to just sort of like always be worrying about this kind of thing and not allowing yourself to explore new avenues and things like that. But
I
it's
love that.
this conversation is so crazy that I don't know if anyone that's watching knows this, but like we just met on this call.
Yeah, literally.
We just met on this call. It's so natural. We definitely
Yeah,
work together or do some kind of workshop in the future because this feels like
absolutely. Let's make that happen. We will make that happen.
100%.
Um,
Going for not on near an hour now. So, is there any sort of final word you want to leave the people with?
I would just say, to be patient with yourself, and I will say, um, you know, accept that, and it's not easy, but move towards accepting that there's going to be difficult moments. You may have moments where, like, you know, you're down for months or weeks at a time, and I think just accepting that, you know what, this is what life is and what it looks like, not seeing happiness as like a destination, but seeing it as you can experience moments of joy and happiness within your day-to-day life. And then you may have moments where you don't experience that, but not holding yourself to like an unattainable standard of like, I have to do this or healing looks like that. I truly believe that um healing is about becoming like your whole self, and I feel like you don't become your whole self until you die. I know that sounds like a lot for people, but I feel like for me that has allowed me to gain a sense of peace that, you know what, I may revert to old patterns, I may not always be my best, but I'm going to continue to do my best every single day and experience what I'm supposed to experience in those moments, and just just keep moving and keep flowing.
I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
I feel like this conversation really reminds me. I don't know if you ever watched like Sarah Jakes Roberts. You watch her ever?
No, 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 I haven't watched it. Oh,
Um,
Sarah Jess Roberts,
yeah,
the
yeah,
pastor. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
One video on YouTube. It's called like oh, I can't remember the exact name. It's like women who run in the wilderness or something.
No. Wait. Is that the? Oh, okay. There's a
And
book
she's
called
talking about
Oh, okay.
it's kind of about rock bottom, and it's like these like once you've ran through the wilderness, it's like you can't. There's nothing you can't do anymore because how can you tell no to women that have ran through the wilderness? And like, just this conversation just kind of reminded me of that. So that's something I'd recommend to everyone that's watching. Hayden just say, giving him a lot of things to think about. Good, that's what we want
Amazing.
because we have brains. And a lot of people is not thinking. Amazing. I'm trying to think, is there any other things we should just roll off with? Is there anything you're working on at the moment that you want people to know about?
I was no, I was trying to think of something fancy to say. No, not really. I would say that really. I think I'm just going with the flow at the moment. I obviously have my book.
Where can we get your book?
Amazon.
Amazon. Okay.
Yeah, Amazon. So it's called The Warrior's Mind. You can check it on my page. But at the moment, it's really just about continuing to do like our workshops and stuff. So coming soon, we've got workshops coming. We're just currently working on the background stuff, and then we'll be arranging that. But just stay tuned to our Mental Health Awareness Week content throughout the week.
Yeah, definitely follow the Girls at Warrior Reminder. Such a good page. I've been following you guys for a while now. And in terms of my things, I mean, my book is out, both of them, in my bio at Chani Ra, at by Chani Ra. I'll link our tags when I re-upload this video, like first Anita. Oh, that was breaking the 4-4 then. But I'll put our handles. And yeah, other than that, I'm always doing something. Just come follow me, see what's up. Like,
yeah, literally same energy.
Probably. I don't plan these things. They just come out of the woodwork. So yeah, so nice to talk to you and meet you in this very unorthodox way. And yes, have a blessed evening.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.